Thanks for watching India Today. Our continued coverage on the Kuwait fire tragedy with 45 Indians dead. 31 people's mortal remains has been brought back to the Kochi airport. These are live images we're beaming for you. Kerala Chief Minister, Union Minister Suresh Gopi, all at the airport. Ministry of External Affairs, MOS, KV Singh was also on board the special IAF flight. The mortal remains have just landed, with the family members coordinating with the officials. Really heartbreaking images that have surfaced. This is Kochi Airport, 2 days after the fire tragedy. Let me quickly cut across to Shashank Mattu, who's also with us. Shashank, a smooth affair so far, as it's been a day right after the Kochi fire tragedy. Repatriation efforts have completed with 31 mortal remains that have been brought back to the Kochi airport, and the rest of them are yet to come. Do we know of the remaining? We know most of them hail from Kerala here, 31 of them, 23 from Kerala and 7 from Tamil Nadu, which is very close to Kerala. They can move by road, but the rest of the Indians who've succumbed.
Yes, we've also had people from Andhra Pradesh, we've had people from Odisha, really from, some people from Uttar Pradesh as well. We're really from all over the country. These people have come over, the dead workers have come from a number of different places in the country, which is why, of course, first we've had the plane come to Kochi, and after that it's going to go off to Delhi, where the Ministry of External Affairs is going to move and work with the state representatives to which these, of course, the deceased belonged. And then, as you mentioned very rightly, it's been a smooth process so far, barring, of course, what you were mentioning earlier about this little fracas between the Kerala state government as well as the central government. But so far, it's been smooth. It's been, the KV Singh went very rapidly to Kuwait. He's returned quickly as well, had meetings with all the top leaders in Kuwait who assured him of their support, which is why you've had such a quick repatriation. And, of course, with Kerala, things have moved smoothly. The expectation is, even in Delhi, when the flight lands in Delhi at 4 p.m., it's going to move smoothly as well, making sure that the bodies of the deceased reach their families in the various states across the country.
Geeta Mohan is also joining us live for more on that. Geeta, repatriation efforts by the government of India has been smooth so far. The mortal remains have just arrived at the Kochi airport. We're seeing live visuals of Pinarayi Vijayan and the MOS External Affairs KV Singh, who's also accompanied the officers on that Indian Air Force aircraft, bringing back mortal remains of 31 individuals so far.
Well, that's right. Also, the maximum number of losses have come from Kerala, which is why the plane landed in Kochi, Nabila. 23 deceased from Kerala, 7 from Tamil Nadu, 3 from Andhra Pradesh. They would have been taken in Kochi itself, the mortal remains of those, and the rest then fly to Delhi, land in Delhi around 4:30 p.m. And those include UP, Orissa, Bihar, Punjab, Maharashtra, West Bengal, Jharkhand, and Haryana. Another one from Karnataka also will be offloaded in Kochi, or has been. So a very serious situation right there. But the MOS, Mr. Singh, who travelled to Kuwait, has come back saying that the Kuwaiti government has taken serious note of the incident. But Nabila, it does bring about the larger question of how Indian labourers are kept in West Asian countries in the Arab world. The situation, labour standard of living of labour and the blue-collared workers in these parts of the world is absolutely abysmal. We've had cases of complaints. We've had cases where the owners or the employers take and confiscate the passports, do not allow the Indians or the workers to move out or even return. We've had calls for help in the past. So this certainly brings about the larger question of how can so many people be stuffed into just one building and into rooms where the capacity is much lesser than the number of people living. And the fact that when a fire breaks out, it becomes impossible for so many people then to be evacuated or to escape the fire. So a lot of questions. While the Kuwaiti authorities have taken a serious note of this, and there could be compensation. Who will be giving the compensation, whether it's the employers, the government? There needs to be clarity on that. But there are larger questions, Nabila, and we will have to start now asking and reporting on the conditions of blue-collar workers in such countries, and whether if India now is in a position, India has been talking about these issues, but India is in a position to leverage our power, our position, to ensure that Indians who are working in these parts of the world are treated fairly, are treated better than this. This certainly should be a wake-up call to not just Kuwait, but other countries in the region as well, and a wake-up call to the Indian government. So whilst we see the Indian External Affairs Ministry take up the matter very, very quickly, respond very quickly, move very quickly, the minister went there immediately. He's not just been a part of repatriation of mortal remains. There are a lot of severely injured people, Indians, who are now in 5 other hospitals. He went and visited them. There would be some who would want to return back to India. So we'll have to see how the government facilitates repatriation for those who are now in the healing process, and some very severely burned. So again, the provisions for them, the health facilities for them, the medical facilities for them, according to the minister, has been quite good. But if they want to return to India, would there be a repatriation facility for them as well, is something we'll have to wait and see. Again, Nabila, going back to the larger question, should this be allowed? Should so many workers be stuffed into small rooms in these countries, and labor laws be violated? No questions asked. If they get into trouble, it becomes very difficult for them to be rescued. Employers are allowed to confiscate passports and employment documents. So unfair treatment to blue-collared workers in these parts of the world. And it's not just Indians. Anybody from the developing world where countries send such labor force to these countries have a huge problem in their hands. And that certainly has to do with labor laws.
Geeta, if you could really give us the difference. You're saying that Indians could be ill-treated or not treated on par with the local workers there. What's really the difference? In what sense do you say that Indians have substandard living conditions, that they're cramped into buildings? We hear that the building that was built where these Indians were staying is also part owned by an Indian.
Well, absolutely. And let's just look at the difference. One, if you looking at West Asia and the Arab world, most of the locals no longer are part of the labor force. They actually are so well-to-do now that most of the labor force come from countries like India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Nepal, and of which Pakistan, Bangladesh constitute a lot of the labor force, but a lot of them come from down south in the Gulf, in West Asia, or what we call, or what the Western world calls Middle East. And if you look at the kind of conditions, the pay parity to begin with, the pay parity where the Indian labor force or Pakistani, Bangladeshi, any country from this part of the world is paid way less than if it were their own people. And certainly we don't see labor force from the developed world. So it is either them, the locals, or from this part of the world. And locals in those countries are far reduced now in number when it comes to blue-collar jobs. They all outsource these jobs to labor force from this part of the world. Although when it comes to pay, they go there in need for jobs, but also because they earn a lot more than they would have in their own countries. Whether it's India, whether it's Bangladesh, Nepal, they earn a lot more when it comes to pay. So pay parity when it comes to their own country versus the Arab world could be higher. They save a lot more because of the conditions that they live in, cramped up. And even if they choose to, Nabila, it should not be allowed because they all are trying to save some money. And over there in West Asia, in the Middle East, if you're looking at these countries, there have to be certain standards that should be maintained. It's not just about pay parity; it's about the treatment meted out to these workers as well. It's certainly not at par with how they treat their own. There are a lot of cases that I personally deal with, and we then take it up with the Ministry of External Affairs that such and such person is in trouble, his passport has been confiscated, he's being ill-treated, he wants to return. There is no way of returning because there is some guarantee money that they take, and they need to work till that money that they owe to the employer is paid for. So it is actually quite, not just an unhealthy way of working and functioning, that's actually bonded labor to a large extent. So the larger question over here is that will the Indian administration now sit down with these countries and change the rules of the game? You want employees, you want employment you want Indian labor force to go and work in West Asia, in your country, then you better have these standards, which is pay parity, standard of living, where do they live, what are the working conditions. You cannot hold them against their will. If they want to leave, their passports cannot be confiscated and kept by these employers or sheikhs. So there has to be that parity. The Indians who have gone there and built a life for themselves and partner with these employers only know this. They don't know better because they themselves have gone through the same drill. So everything now has to be rewired to know that Indian labor force, one, doesn't come cheap, and it doesn't come without respect. The respect and honor of allowing people the space to leave when they want to, work in a certain way and have decent living conditions should just be basic. And that's what this Kuwait incident, which we've not seen in a long time, Nabila. We've not seen such an incident where so many Indians have lost their lives and so many others severely injured or suffering severe burn injuries admitted in hospital. So it is a wake-up call. We've been reporting about this. I've been reporting about this. Our network has been reporting about this. Every time we see such a case of Indians languishing somewhere in the Arab world, but now it is time for the Indian government to wake up and reconfigure those rules of the game when it comes to employment and workforce, Indian workforce in the Middle East.
Right. You know, Geeta, and like you said, Indians also come with skill, great skill. You have most of these people who've died. You have blue-collared workers, you did mention, but should I point out, many of them engineers who were staying in that building and who've died. You have a project manager, you have a consultant, you have a driver, you have a project engineer, all of them living together in that same building. So it's all levels of employees who were put together or literally dumped in that one housing complex. And we hear there were Indians, there were Bangladeshis, Nepalis, Egyptians, Philippines, a mixed bag of people and nationalities, all in one housing complex, nearly 200 of them, which was highly cramped according to Kuwait standards. But then what happened to Kuwait authorities, civic authorities not checking if violations were committed, not ensuring that these buildings have proper fire exits or fire safety alarms. Those safety nets weren't checked if they were in place or not. So it's surely to be the Kuwait authorities also to be blamed here.
Well, in many ways, then, Nabila, the Kuwaiti authorities are to be blamed, but because these are the living conditions that have been provided for years, for decades. It's not new. Everybody knows that that there are colonies after colonies where Indians, Bangladeshis, Pakistanis, Sri Lankans, they all stay cramped in buildings, in rooms, and there is nothing that has been done about that. So it is not new. It is something that has been happening for years. But again, like I go back to the whole idea and point of now how both governments should be working towards ensuring safe living conditions. Even if they're not absolutely decent, the most standard should be safe living conditions. And if this is not priority, then there has to be a rethink on how workforce should be sent to West Asian countries. So, and you know, Nabila, with this incident in Kuwait, a lot of other countries will now start looking at working conditions of Indians in their own countries, because it is quite abysmal, and they need to start looking into it, because should there be an incident in any other country, I do not think that the Indian administration is going to take it very lightly. We do know that, you know, the government has prioritized safety of Indian diaspora, concerns of Indian diaspora abroad, and they have looked at how to make life better for them. This certainly is not part of that entire safety for Indian diaspora architecture, and if the Indian government wants to look and seem serious about providing that safety net for Indian diaspora abroad, they need to start working on this front. We have been talking about it for way too long. It's been decades that I've been reporting on safety for Indians in West Asia, the fact that they're ill-treated, the fact that there is no accountability, the fact that there is no place that they can go to for justice. Many of them for months languish in or are taken captive in the employer's residence. Many of them in jails because it's very easy to file complaints against these Indian workers and put them behind bars. So there has to be a relook on how these countries treat Indian workers.
It's really heartbreaking to see these images, Geeta, that are coming in where family members have just arrived. They've reached the mortal remains of their loved ones. They're sobbing, in fact, inconsolable. You have the Kerala government authorities who are also standing right there beside the family members as they identify the caskets of their loved ones where the mortal remains have been placed. Many of them inconsolable. These are live images that we're bringing for you from the Kochi airport. In fact, 31 people, largely who hail from Kerala, their mortal remains have been brought back. There is expected to be another round of the Indian Air Force aircraft coming down, carrying the remaining number of Indians. 45 of them who've died, of which 31 has come down for now. There's still about 16 people's mortal remains that needs to be brought back, and they come from different parts of India. At this point, it's only this aircraft that's carrying large number of Keralites and people from Tamil Nadu. 7 from Tamil Nadu, 23 from Kerala, 1 from Karnataka. Their mortal remains has just arrived at the Kochi airport. These are live images as we see that area there fully crowded, family members there who've just arrived, identifying the casket of their loved ones, and you see them sobbing there, many of them in still shock. In fact, we hear Shivi Mole giving us a sense of how families even found out that their loved ones had died after they saw coverage on media channels, photographs of their loved ones put up to show that they were the ones who died in the fire. That's how families even understood that a tragedy had taken place and then tried to contact the officials, and thereafter this repatriation efforts were coordinated. So many of the family members were not even informed because their loved ones died and perished in the dead of the night. The fire broke out at around 6 a.m. Early the morning, and even before those victims could realize what had hit them, the smoke had engulfed the building in such a manner where a lot of them, we hear, died owing to suffocation. In fact, some of them even jumped to death. They couldn't handle the fire and the smoke. They jumped to death. Many of them who died in their sleep because of the smoke. The others who were burnt beyond identification. Shibi Mole is with us. Shibi, these images are really heartbreaking. We know that the family members have all arrived. Have they all been coordinated with? Are you at the spot?
Well, Nabila, that's what we're understanding. Like you mentioned, very disappointing images coming from Cochin Airport. In fact, one of the victims' body was identified by his father itself, who was working in Kuwait himself. So, the father has also accompanied him, is what we're understanding. So, very heartbreaking images. There are families, members who have come there, relatives who have come there to receive the body the mortal remains along with the state government. In fact, it might, get delayed because I'm right now outside one of the residences, one of the deceased residences here in Thiruvananthapuram. He's the only resident from Thiruvananthapuram who's, among the 23, he's only one native of Thiruvananthapuram. So here they were expecting the mortal remains to reach much earlier because earlier it was said 8:30, but now it will be reaching really late. We're expecting the time that they're expecting is around 6 o'clock, and right after that, they're not going to keep the mortal remains at the residence for a longer time. Right after that, it will be taken for the last rites, is what the family members are telling. In fact, very disappointing scenes, not just at the airport, even at the residences. That's what we're seeing. Some of them had just went to Kuwait last week after leave. At least 2 of them out of the 23. We heard that 2 of them had returned to Kuwait after a vacation just a week ago. So one of them, the date that they said was June 5th. One of them had returned to Kuwait on June 5th, and exactly a week or like a little more than a week later, they're coming back lifeless. It's not something that the family can really accept. There are many case studies of people. Most of them are very young. That is again more heartbreaking, considering that is most of them were in their late 20s and early 30s. So the families had a lot of hopes. All of them.
Many of them are engineers, Shibi. So they're all skilled laborers, skilled people who were employed in that company, NBTC, and most of them who hail from Kerala. Their mortal remains has just arrived at the Kochi airport. Family members have received it. These are live images to show you. The family there, inconsolable. Kerala government officials are also at the spot, along with the Ministry of External Affairs representatives, MOS of the MEA, who's right there at the spot coordinating this repatriation process. We know that just 31 people's mortal remains have been brought, the remaining to come during the course of the day.